Everybody, welcome to Storm Talk. Away 3 News meteorologist Brian Good here on this Monday. Back to blogging once again, and of course the weather's starting to pick up too in its busy fashion. Here's the headline this week, and it involves two features really. We've got a front moving through the Rockies and Northern Plains. It will be a focal point as we head toward the weekend. At the same time, we've got a very sluggish pattern across the southeast part of the country. Got a front, stationary front, still there. It's hard to be defined on a map because it is very ill-defined on its features, but it's still there. But we also have this tropical low across the Florida Panhandle and the Big Bend area. That is where problems are developing as we get into this week with flooding that tropical moisture. If this center were to get a little more over the Gulf of Mexico for a while, it would likely develop into a tropical system and get a surface reflection of that, as we call it. But it looks like it's going to move enough over land. Good and bad. Good in a sense it will keep it from becoming organized in a tropical way, but bad in a sense that it's going to be so close to the moisture source that anywhere along the I-10 corridor is going to be hammered with heavy rain and flooding. For our area, though, we'll wait and see how this happens with this low, because our main feature is going to be as the low drifts back toward Mississippi the next couple of days, the spiral bands, kind of like a tropical system or a hurricane, will be rotating counterclockwise around the low, and that's going to send any shower and thunderstorm activity from the southeast. So kind of backwards weather today. We'll have a few downpours moving in from the southeast, and we will likely see that trend continue throughout most of the week, it looks like. Here's Futurecast showing that as we head through the week, the issue we're going to have toward the weekend is the merging of that front that I mentioned across the northern part of the country, being able to pull and tug on that low into our area. Now, the actual low itself, hard to tell at this point if it will get all the way into our area, but the moisture will likely funnel up the front into our region. But the concern here is that even as the front approaches, it may stall out across the area. And if it does, we may have another low pressure, one if not two, that could develop on that front and move into that area about a week from now, so early next week. So this front is key. The problem we're going to have is multiple waves of showers and thunderstorms with these fronts moving through, and the low pressures on the front that we could have some flooding problems. I think we're okay between now and the weekend. Anything between now and the weekend is going to be your just downpours that move through, isolated cases where you could get maybe a 1 inch or maybe a 2 inch rain total in some cases. Again, backwards weather moving in from the southeast to the northwest. That'll be the exception rather than rule. But as we get into the weekend and early next week, the concern is more organized activity along the front, and these multiple waves passing on the front will have to be watched carefully. All right. Let me show you the problem here on the Gulf states. Here are some of the forecast models for rain totals. This is just through Sunday night. This will likely continue longer than that, but through Sunday, nearly 10 inches of rain, if not more. Some models coming in with about 15 inches of rain, but that's going to be just offshore. So if that 15 inches of rain ends up moving in a little more onshore, then we got some problems. All right. You see the issue there. For us, we'll be in the issue of just the bands of thunderstorms off and on between now and the weekend, and then we'll likely get the bulk of these totals 1 to 2 inches when the actual front low pressure merger happens over the weekend itself. Got to stress though, if we end up with more moisture than expected on this front, in the front we see multiple waves traveling along, that we may have to really up these totals. But I don't want to get ahead of ourselves here. We need to take it slow and ease with the data, because you're dealing with a cutoff low kind of a scenario, and anytime you do, the models are going to have a really tough time figuring out the position of that low. Then once that's figured out, it's going to struggle with how much moisture is going to be funneled up along the front, not to mention how quickly the front can push in here and how far east does it make it as far as stalling out in our area. So still lots of questions, but we want to give you a heads up that this is what we are watching and we'll be tracking. Showing you some of the models here from WeatherBell. Good site there to check out for a lot of the data like that. Here's the Canadian showing that low by Thursday and Friday. Again, these little bands moving through. Then as we head into the weekend, you can see the front that is showing up there on the maps themselves, kind of lining itself up near our area. And again, showers, thunderstorms being funneled into that. And then it shows the issue as we head into Monday and Tuesday, where the front is in the area and multiple waves have passed on it. Now the Canadian is going to try to put the front more into Nashville to say Jackson, Kentucky, allowing for any lows to develop to mainly impact areas to the south and east of Louisville for early next week. That's Canadian. Here's the Euro. Shows the low really well as we head into the week. Now it brings the low more to the west than northwest compared to the Canadian and even the GFS. It tries to pull it more toward the Mississippi River, which means our coverage of thunderstorms is still in question between now and, say, Friday or Saturday. Yes, we're expecting these bands to move in, spiral bands, but if the low can remain fairly tucked in, if you will, the northeast quadrant may have very little in the way of heavy rain. So we may get lucky. We've got 40% rain pops in our chances for the rest of the week here, but there may be some days it's only 10 to 20% coverage of rain in our area. Some days it could be 60%. It would just depend on how much moisture can make it in north of that low, and that's still questionable. Now, the Euro does bring the front in for the weekend. You can clearly see, though, what I was discussing a second ago, where the front moves in, it pulls the low into our area, and then we get showers and thunderstorms socked in. Now, I'm leaning more toward the Euro idea, which I've knocked the numbers down dramatically as we head into the weekend here. Mid-80s on Saturday, and we'll be lucky if we get out of the 70s if we stay rainy the way it's looking here for Sunday. It's not a cool weekend, but it's going to be very humid, but at least we'll avoid the 90s. And then it shows early next week the front stalled in the area, and it shows too these little waves passing along it, tracking in the northeast. Again, we got to figure out where is that front going to be at early next week to determine how much of that wave of energy, that waves of energy that pass on the front, how much of that will work its way into the wave country area, especially Louisville. Okay, now beyond that, as we head toward the last, say, 10 days of the month, the Euro ensembles overall saying it will be a cooler than normal pattern, either at or just below normal, so 80s generally for the rest of the month. The heat core being shoved to the southwest. That's a general overview. There could be days where you get 90s in there, but the general idea is a average or below average temperature profile. The GFS ensembles, not exactly completely the opposite of what the Euro is saying. It still has the heat core west, but it's not as aggressive with the cooler weather, so that would keep us more in the, I would say, upper 80s, lower 90s kind of range for the rest of the month, with more showers and thunderstorms potentially. So there you have it. That's the plan here for the next 7 to 10 days. And really, it's going to be a busy period as we get into the weekend. We've really got to figure out all those questions I was bringing up about that low in the front, and it's just too early. It's only Monday. So enjoy the nice weather today. It's beautiful out. We'll see you tomorrow morning.